Good evening and welcome to the August 26th work session of the Penfield Town Board. I'm officially going to call the meeting to order. We'll let the minutes reflect that here in the auditorium this evening we have Councilman Moore. We also have staff, Mr. Costello, Development Services, Mr. Tate, Public Works, and of course our ACE recording secretary, Deputy Town Clerk Sue Scheidt, and we have the rest of the board zooming in. Before I go any further, I'll take this opportunity just to put the official notice into the record. Due to COVID-19 virus and the closing of town operations consistent with the governor's executive orders, the August 26, 2020 Town Board work session meeting will be held remotely via Zoom. This meeting will also be video recorded and broadcast live via the town's website at penfield.org and on the town's government access cable channel 1303 and on streaming media device Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. Search Penfield TV in your device's app store. It is a free app. The meeting will later be transcribed. Questions regarding video coverage may be directed to our team in Penfield TV at 340-8661. With that, I will ask the board, our first order of business is the August 12th, 2020 minutes, and would entertain a motion of approval for those minutes.
Mr. Supervisor, I would move that we approve these minutes.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilwoman Draw, seconded by Councilwoman Cole. I'll ask the board, are there any questions, comments, changes, or otherwise to these minutes? Seeing none and hearing none, I'll ask our clerk if she would please call the roll.
Draw.
Aye.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes.
Okay, thank you very much. Our monthly reports are all up to date. Thank you to all of our department heads. This evening we do not have any public hearings, and we do have one guest that's slated to Zoom in with us, Matt Lester, and this is for a discussion of modification to approved site plan at 2146 Fairport 9 Mile Point Road. And as is customary, I'll ask and recognize Mr. Costello if he would give us a little bit more of an intro on this particular item.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. On December 19th, 2018, the Town Board approved two buildings at 2146 9 Mile Point Road. The building to the front of the property facing onto the road was a 4,500 square foot building. The building which was to be used for commercial purposes, as you can see on the screen, did talk a little bit about for commercial purposes. The second building to the rear was a 4,500 square foot building as well, and that is to be used as a business non-retail office type operation, which the board approved for that site. That was the transition between Route 250 and the neighbors to the east, which is a single-family residential zoning district. To that point, the applicant has been a little bit dormant in terms of developing the site. Mr. Lester, who's with us this evening, is interested in purchasing the site and would like to seek your input regarding a proposal that he has for the property before he moves forward to see what your interest level would be on that in that regard. So I have the resolution here. I've also got the approved site plan, which I will bring up at some point in time here.
All right, thank you. Every meeting we get more adept to...
I'm not that adept tonight, actually. I'm actually, let's see where we are here. Here we are.
And Jim, for the record, where exactly is this property?
This property, again, 2146 9 Mile Point Road, which is just north of the building where Moe's, AT&T, and there's a vacant spot now, which was a CBD store at one time.
Got it.
Is located. So with that, Matt, are you with us? Sounds like he may be.
I am. Yep.
Okay.
All right.
How's everybody doing?
All right, Matt, welcome. Thank you for being here. Good to see you this evening. We do have the previous site plan that's up. I know that you're obviously very familiar with the property and have been having conversations with Development Services Director, Mr. Costello. And with that, we'll give you an opportunity to give a board an update as to what you've got planned and what you have in mind for that particular site.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Supervisor, for including me in tonight's session, and I appreciate everyone's time. As Mr. Costello indicated, this would be a amendment of a request for an amendment of a existing site plan approval. The intent is to modify the site plan as you see on the screen in the front 4,500 square foot building. To reduce that in size to a 3,500 square foot restaurant, including a pickup window for drive-through services. So there's a tenant that is willing to advance the property, advance the location immediately. This would move pretty quickly. It would be great to see activity on the property. The rear 4,500 square foot building, we would just leave the way it is. We don't have a plan for that at this time, but there would be a transition of ownership from the current owner to my group moving forward, and we would immediately move into the site plan amendment on the front building. So it would be a reduction of square footage with the addition of a drive-through for a restaurant. And I shared with Mr. Costello elevations and an example of the design for this restaurant. It would be a proposed Burger King restaurant in addition to a concept plan which would show a modification of this plan which was approved to the west of that interconnected road from north to south. So we've worked on this with this proposed tenant for a very long time. They, due to the world we live in, felt now was the right time to move forward as drive-throughs and social distancing is at the forefront. Drive-through business has gone significantly. It has increased significantly and is obvious, is evident by, the social distancing, but the business has typically gone from 60 to 70% drive-through to close to 90% for obvious reasons. So the drive-through is a pretty critical piece of business. We talked about that at the last, conversation. Every business from this point on that I'm involved with, the Chipotle's of the world and many others that you haven't seen drive-through locations on, the mandate is only to do drive-through business moving forward. So this is kind of the spirit of the request, and obviously the location would be conducive to fit what we feel, the operator feels, a feasible layout.
Matt, I see that where the drive-through window is, you've got a driving lane that actually encroaches onto your neighbor's property. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure, yeah. I've already been in touch with the adjacent property owner to the north of the car wash. That property owner is willing to provide an easement or potential disposition of enough land to accommodate this layout, this drive-through layout. There's been some loose discussions, as you see in the plan I provided to Mr. Costello, of potential cross-access. There have been subsequent discussions, very preliminary and loose. I don't want to commit him to anything at this point, that he would be open to closing his curb cut to the south of his property onto Route 250 with the addition to the cross-access. Those have been very preliminary. This is, we're at the work session stage now, and if the town feels this is something that's worth exploring, I could get more of a commitment on that end by Mr. Melfeld, by the car wash owner.
Got it. Board, any initial questions for Matt?
Mr. Supervisor, I was just wondering if Mr. Costello could share the other page. I've got I guess I'm looking more for the drawing that I think I saw was on the TV side.
The drawing of the building?
Of the proposed building?
Yeah, is there a chance to share that?
There is.
With the magic of technology and Mr. Costello's adept fingers, I think we can make that happen.
I have a lot of faith.
There you go. So you should be seeing that right now, if things are working as well there as they are here.
I'm not, but maybe it's me.
Is anybody else not seeing it? Nobody's seeing it?
Nobody's seeing it?
No, we see it in our little, we see it on the side panel in the
The TV view.
TV.
Well, see if I can.
I may have spoke too soon about Mr. Costello's
Well,
technical abilities.
Not that.
So Bob, while
why it's
Jim
not.
is working on that, could you, do you have a specific question that you'd like to at least bring up or discuss?
If I can interrupt,
We get there?
if you want to stop the screen sharing and then re-share it, kind of stop it and start it back up again, that might help.
Okay, that's, that last voice that you heard, for the record, is Ryan downstairs, who is help pushing all the buttons and connecting all of the cabling and everything like that, so we can do what we do. So we'll see if that happens and works. Is that better?
Yeah. I was actually thinking about the other one that was more of another view looking down. I think there was a colored rendering of the property that I saw in the TV view.
I
just
had the
couldn't-
site plan up.
Okay.
Is that what you're thinking about? Actually, this one here?
Yeah, did you have one other?
No? Well, I have the proposal that he's,
Yeah.
yes.
Let's put the,
This is the one you're thinking of?
is that-
Yeah, that's the one I was looking for. Thank you.
all right, very good.
That's it.
So go ahead, Robert, the floor is yours.
No question as of yet. I just needed
Okay.
to get a better perspective on exact location and how that crossroad would tie into the existing car wash, et cetera, so.
Okay, as Mr. Ockington is taking a quick re-review of that, I just want to make sure that I do a quick summary, and Matt makes sure that I don't get too far in the weeds on this. So the proposal is for that restaurant building to be reduced in size by approximately 1,000 square feet. And that the building behind that, when the board originally heard, there was a discussion about that being office space. And you're proposing at this time square footage to remain the same, but no tenants that you've identified at this point, but would be working on that in conjunction with the potential acquisition of this property from the current owner.
That's correct. We'd like to leave that portion of the approved site plan alone from the cross-access road to the west. We seek to modify that portion of the plan. And this is a concept plan. This could obviously be further modified. The building could move to the west. We could, eliminate some parking, shift some things around.
Got it.
So I wouldn't want to get too hung up at the layout, other than just the general, circulation and flow. And we wanted to illustrate with this that we do in fact intend on working with the adjacent property owner to the north, and we do have a comfort level from him to work together. And the curb cut onto Fairport 9 Mile Line Road has been contemplated for a closure with a shared access, as you see on our concept plan. Nothing's been committed to by that owner. I plan on speaking with him tomorrow to further that conversation. But he is open to that concept.
Okay.
Matt, I'd like to remind you and the board that this was an incentive zoning program to allow commercial retail use to occur in a business non-retail zone. And as part of that incentive, you hit it right on the head. The developer was going to install a road to tie into the existing roadway on the Trowel property. So that would probably be something to consider as you're moving forward, because that would most probably continue to be a condition of approval.
Okay.
And that's something that we're aware of and comfortable to obviously, commit to as part of this moving forward.
Thank you, Mr. Costello, for that update. Matt, thank you for the confirmation on that. I will remind our viewing audience that this is, before the town board as a conceptual plan for the board to take a look at a proposed modification to what was originally approved now close to 2 years ago. So the next step would be that if the board was comfortable with moving forward, that then a more formal presentation would be made and a hearing held and everything like that. So again, tonight's an opportunity to kind of vet things out, ask questions, make sure that everybody's comfortable with the concept that's being proposed. So Councilwoman Draw.
I do have a question. Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Matt, and question for you, I guess, maybe if Mr. Costello is driving this, the pencil or the pointer on this plan. So if I'm understanding, we're still where you'd like to, where that little pointer is there, that's where you'd like to come in, right? That's where a person would access this property, correct?
That would be, that would remain open, and that would be one of several points of shared ingress to, find your way to this restaurant. The concept of potential curb closure would be to the north of that, if that's kind of where.
Okay, you're talking up there by that, where it butts up to the car wash, right?
Correct, yeah, that would be the concept that we're working through, trying to understand the impacts of the car wash and his business. He feels that his business would increase or benefit from this tenant adjacent to his property, and he could appreciate taking another access point off Fairport 9 Mile Point Road and interconnect the two sites with that cross access.
So then, can you show me then also, then going into where is the drive-through? Can you show me how we're getting to the drive-through, and then there would be two ways out of the drive-through?
So if you would just follow the little hand, Mr. Costello is going to be leading you in and off in Route 250 right now.
I see it. Yep. So there we go to the drive-through, right?
Yep.
And then you could circle around behind the building, right? Comes
Yep.
out, and then you come back out the way you came in?
You
Yep.
could go either
Two
north
choices.
or south.
Okay. And then the north road, take me north all the way to how, potentially where you would like it to come out to. Right there. Right, that's what I thought. Understand. And then that comes out on, right, okay, so.
That where Mr. Costello's hand, the little cursor was, that would make a left turn there to circulate back to Route 250, or that would continue. This aerial doesn't do it justice, but the intent is to continue to 441 as a secondary point of egress. Or if you were to circle the building, if you were to restart, you could circle the building and come back around to the traffic light where Jeremiah's and Panera is, or as a primary point of egress, I would envision the customers to just circle right back out to Route 250. So you do just a circle of the building and then right out. And the traditional movement would be northbound. If it's a southern bound turn, a left turn, I could see them cutting across in front of Moe's as one alternative and right across Panera to the light, or circling right back through that access road where they came in and around the back of the buildings. So one of the luxuries of this property and this, I guess we'll call it the whole development, is that there's so many points of ingress and egress to be shared. In my opinion, and I'm not an engineer or traffic engineer, but I really, from a business standpoint, a customer standpoint, it really eliminates a lot of choke points and some congestion points. And that's one of the values and the benefits of being a part of this project and this whole corridor. And eliminating a curb cut on Route 250 further benefits or promotes that intercirculation, and I would hope take some congestion off of the curb cuts to Beerport 9 Mile Point Road. So that was the intent of that conversation with Mr. Malco to the north, is to offer a benefit in addition to the curb connection or the road connection behind the proposed restaurant to the north. That would be a pretty big and critical point of this project, and it would be developed with this project to really improve the circulation of the corridor. So that was the thought process. No problem.
Thanks, Matt. This is very good clarification. Thank you.
Board,
Matt, if I could just ask
Yep.
a question relative, I realize this is just I guess a draft drawing at this point. The actual drive-through area where you've got the, 4 cars, it looks like 2 lanes, which is kind of becoming the norm, I guess, right, as far as drive-through windows go. Just in this picture, I'm immediately thinking of McDonald's, which can have cars almost back out to 250 at their drive-through window. And I'm just kind of thinking I see maybe a situation where cars are going to be kind of stacked up at this little intersection here. Just wondering if you've got any thoughts, behind that, if it's a concern at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, and it's difficult in today's world with, COVID. Every drive-through is so overwhelmed, and the way that the drive-throughs have been initially developed and designed did not anticipate the volumes of 80-90% of business funneling through drive-throughs. I can tell you the Taco Bell across the street is more apt to handle a larger volume. Other restaurants really have fine-tuned their drive-through layout and their operations. Burger King does not do the volume that McDonald's does. I can tell you their sales are significantly less on a top line, and that's due to the lower volume of drive-through. This is something that's been refined time and time again through, in my opinion, Burger King's improvement of their drive-through, and this double drive-through allows the slower portion of the drive-through is at the order point, and this allows the operator to get 2 orders in at the same time, prepare their food in an expedited fashion to move the cars through in a more timely manner. So it's really a much improved method of how they can operate a drive-through to handle more peak time volume. So I think that may be a challenge for McDonald's, and I would assume or guess that they would want to improve upon their layout if they could. And I know they have converted to the double drive-through over the years, as many have. There's a few others out there that are doing double drive-through successfully. So that's the goal, and that's why this restaurant does that layout moving forward. It really allows them to get a better lead time on making the food to expedite the process to circulate the cars out. But yeah, this stack here, the engineer didn't do a great job, and he's a great engineer, but he was hustling on this one. So the car stack that you see isn't necessarily appropriate for what this can handle. This shows 12, I believe, roughly 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. But this would be designed to hold probably 14. And an 8-car stack was the norm. That was the standard for most municipalities. Show me 8 cars from order point to menu board. And the operators and the businesses have demanded that they increase that for their own use, not even to accommodate the municipality or, any code. That's what they feel they want to be comfortable during peak times.
Understood. Okay. Like I said, my concern was just whether there'd be a situation where cars would be blocking, either of those means of egress. But I assume you guys will work through that along with Mr. Costello as the process goes.
Yeah, the hope is not to. The other aspect of this plan, and again, it's conceptual, is if in fact that was a concern we wanted to address, which I appreciate it and I recognize it. There's an ability to slide the building to the west, closer to 250, and eliminate those 5 parking spaces in front of what we'll call the patio area. That'll give you a longer stacking capability with the drive-through and mitigate that concern a little bit further. We could probably fit a few more cars in that stack.
Yeah, and I recognize the drawing. Those cars look kind of large, I'm guessing. So you're right. It's probably not a true reflection of how many cars could be stacked there. But okay, that's all. Just wanted to.
We definitely can get into it a little bit more detailed. If there's a comfort level to advance this further.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Ockenden. Board, any other questions at this point? I might ask Mr. Costello, is there anything that you believe should be added to the record that we haven't already discussed, or any input that we've received on this application?
I think Matt's done a good job of giving us the information that we discussed through the process. Looking at the plan, though, one thing that jumps out at me as a little bit of a concern is the fact that a lot of the parking along that roadway, you'd be backing out into that driving lane to get off the site, to move off, which is a little bit makes me nervous when I see that. There's going to be a lot of traffic going up and down that access point, and to back out into that on an hour-to-hour basis may be a little bit problematic.
Okay, that's a good observation. Thank you. I'll ask Matt, any additional input you'd like to provide the board that we haven't already discussed that you believe is pertinent to this particular application?
No, I appreciate everyone's time and willingness to explore this further. There's a few examples of Burger Kings that have, and to Mr. Costello's point about the parking, immediately accessing, or entering and exiting that access road. There's a previous example we did for the same operator over on Humboldt Street near Culver, and it's an extremely high volume restaurant for the Burger King, and the ingress is laid out just like this, where it's an enter only in that regard, and it's people can park and then pull right out, and they seem to be able to navigate it pretty well by example. But again, it's a little bit of a different ingress only versus an ingress egress. But yeah, I appreciate the questions. Hopefully, I answered everybody's questions adequately and to their needs, and appreciate everybody's time.
All right. Board, one last opportunity for anything with Matt. I'll ask, is the board prepared to advance this forward? Would you like to have another 2-week soak time on that, look at the plans in more detail? What is the pleasure of the board as we look to move forward? Yeah, go ahead, Matt.
I'd just like to point out one thing that may be understated, and I know this property has been sitting idle for years. This tenant is committed; they will advance immediately, and there's no impediment other than really site plan approval that would delay their immediate construction. Now, obviously, we'd have to go through the appropriate channels, but I could assure everyone that this would be an immediate, action to build. kind of the linking piece between the north and the south property to be connected. And this could be a great thing for really all of the retail and the daycare and the office to the south to finally get connected to the north, which I think would really benefit the whole corridor. I hate to put so much pressure on this project, but it is the kind of that missing link. But this restaurant is 100% committed to move forward as quickly as possible.
Okay. Thank you for that input. Board pleasure as far as additional soak time, or are you prepared to ask the applicant to move forward towards a public hearing?
Mr. Supervisor, I'm prepared to move forward to a public hearing. I think it gives an opportunity for us to think about it. In the meantime, certainly have a more formal presentation with more formal design diagrams, layouts, so forth by the applicant, and I'm sure we'll have additional questions at that public hearing. But I'm prepared to move forward to that next step. Thank you.
Okay. Board comfortable with that approach?
Mr. Supervisor?
Yes, go ahead, Councilwoman Draw.
I'm comfortable to move forward as well, but I would, Mr. Costello's point about the parking there gets me thinking a little bit about that entrance, that I'd like a little more clarity on that, or what we're going to, I'm sure we'd see that at the next round of looking at this project.
Okay. And certainly I know this board has been active in the past going on site tours. So as Mr. Lester indicated, there is an example of that on Humboldt at Culver. It sounds like an opportunity that take a look and see how that's working, observe that. I know staff is very good about going out and checking that out, and then bringing that back to PRC for discussion and to vet that out. Okay. All right, Mr. Moore, might you be willing to make a motion to kind of restate your original comments?
Sure, I will move, excuse me, I will move to move this applicant forward to a formal public hearing, allowing the public to have input and allowing the town board to see a more substantial application with diagrams, renderings, those type of materials that are provided at public hearings. Thank you.
All right. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Cole. I'll ask before a vote, any additional items that you would like to see that we haven't already talked about that would provide some additional guidance to the applicant? Okay, seeing none, I'd ask for a roll call vote, and this is again to advance to the next stage for a public hearing of this property.
Draw.
Aye.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes.
All right, Mr. Lester, thank you very much for taking your time this evening and updating the board on this project that has been sitting there for a while, and look forward to scheduling a public hearing to formally review.
Likewise, I appreciate everyone's time. Thank you so much. Have a great evening.
All right, be well, be safe.
You too. We'll see you soon.
Okay, we will move on to our action items. Our first action item, customary agricultural operations / residential chicken ordinance. Mr. Ockenden's name has been attached to this from the start, as it was his encouragement that the board look at, consider, and develop this. And so I know that we have been through several drafts. I know most recently from our last discussions, Mr. Costello and Mr. Horowitz have gone through and made a number of minor tweaks and updates. And I'm going to turn it over, before I turn it over to Mr. Ockenden, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Costello to kind of give us an update from the last discussion that he and Mr. Horowitz, our town attorney, has had.
Thank you, Mr. LaFountain. As you know, we have received numerous emails, and Mr. Ockenden was good enough to share those with us as he'd been receiving them, as has the supervisor. We did do some minor modifications since the last time the board got together to discuss this issue. And I want to go through those with you just because some of them are important and they are far-reaching. If you remember, we had initially identified certain zoning districts, residential zoning districts, where we would allow chickens to be placed on properties. We started thinking about that because I think Mr. Ockenden had received an email from a lady within one of the PD districts who lives in a single-family detached residence, which is no different than any other one in town, wondering if they were going to be allowed to have them as well, because she did not see PD districts as one of the permitted districts for the chickens. So we started thinking about that. We decided that we would recommend to you that any single-family residential detached home in the town, regardless of zoning, even some pre-existing non-conforming homes in various districts, such as commercial districts that have not yet converted, should have the same rights as anybody else who had the right or was about to have the right to have chickens. So we modified the wording, and it's really basically the first line of the ordinance, stating on properties with single-family detached homes only, no lot may be used or occupied, and no structure may be erected, maintained, or used for the raising, harboring, or housing of female chickens, hereinafter chickens, unless an application is made to and a permit is granted by the authorized official after consideration of the following standards. So in essence, if you own a single-family residence, no matter what zoning district it's in, and it's detached, it is not townhouses, it's not apartments, but it's a detached single-family residence, you would then have the right to have a permit for raising chickens on site. The second issue is a minor one. Under B, it says there shall be no slaughtering of chickens on the premises at any time. The prior wording was there shall be no slaughtering of chickens for meat, which gave the impression that if you wanted it for meat, you could not slaughter, but you could slaughter for other purposes. So we've taken that out so that you are not allowed to slaughter chickens on the premises at any time. The third one was somebody had sent in an email stating that chickens should not be allowed. We were saying that chickens shall not be, those should be kept on the premises by the permittee at all times. That's meant to say you're not allowed to have your chickens roaming in your neighbor's yards or on the streets or anywhere else in the town. If you need to take a chicken to a veterinarian or you're going to take it for a show or something of that nature and you have it under control, that's perfectly fine. So we want to make sure the public understands it's only pertaining to not allowing chickens off the premises for free-range walking or whatever the case may be. The next one was we put in some wording towards the end of the document that stated there were some questions as to whether or not you had to have a veterinarian look at the chickens on an annual basis or even more than annual. And our comment was you're not obligated to do that. But if chickens become ill or injured, you are obligated to, seek veterinarian help to make sure that they stay healthy and functional. The only other thing was there was an email, and I actually talked to gentlemen about the idea. We are requiring, or we're proposing to require 4 square foot coops. And we did receive input from the gentleman stating that 3 square foot coops might be more appropriate in terms of keeping chickens warmer in the wintertime. I guess we're open to any suggestion the board might have regarding that, but many other towns had 4 square foot coops, and that's why we did that. So those are the modifications since the last time we met, and we're seeking the board's input. If you have modifications that you'd like to make, we'd certainly be happy to do those for you. And I think, judging by the board, I think you'd like to get this done fairly quickly and get it out to the public as soon as possible, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Costello. Thank you for the update. Thank you for the work that you and Mr. Horwitz did as follow-up to not only some questions the board had, but also a number of residents that had provided input for clarification. At this time, I'd like to recognize Councilman Ockenden. It was his particular project that he requested now a number of months ago to put on work session for discussion, then encourage us then to move forward with a public hearing. And I would just ask for Mr. Ockenden to give us any additional wrap-up conversations on this matter.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Yeah, just to reiterate, a lot of time has gone into getting this to where we think it works for all those who are interested in having the backyard chickens, taking into consideration safety. That was obviously paramount. We received a lot of public comments, and I want to thank you, Mr. Supervisor, for keeping that open beyond the August 5th hearing, because I think that night of the hearing also generated a lot of interest. So that extra week, we were flooded with additional comments and suggestions, and many of those, again, were worked into this draft, as Mr. Costello mentioned earlier. We've had our organized group of residents who created a Facebook page. They've been extremely helpful in many of their ideas and suggestions. So again, I want to thank them for their continued input. But with that said, I think we're in a good place with it. I think I'd be supportive of moving this forward tonight, pending any other comments from board members.
All right, thank you, Mr. Ockenden. Thank you for that update and summary. Board, any additional comments, questions, either for Mr. Ockenden or Mr. Costello?
Mr. Supervisor, just real quick, I would like to again thank Councilman Bob Ockenden for bringing this initiative forward. I know Bob called me back in the spring about this idea on a Saturday morning. I said, if you wanna run with it, get some community support behind it, and he did. He got a large amount of community support behind it, and certainly between the emails, phone calls, public comments, there is significant community support from all over the town of Penfield for Bob in moving this initiative forward. So I've gone through a couple rounds of versions of this, and I think that we've got a pretty good compromise of where we need to be moving forward. And, Penfield's not alone at this. I mean, the town staff did a great job taking a look at ordinances in Pittsford, in the city of Rochester, East Rochester, Rondequoit, and Brighton, which all allow chickens, and kind of took a little bit of everything that seemed to work, talking with town officials, and putting together this ordinance, and then working with a couple community groups and other residents, and hearing the public forum meeting that we had, and all those that were supporting this measure moving forward, and then certainly Councilman Ockenden's efforts in some of the fine details of what we need to keep this initiative moving to where we are today, and hopefully here in the near soon a final resolution passed by this town board. I certainly support this. Again, I think it's a good example of compromise. A lot of great ideas. We can't include everybody's idea on a formal resolution or ordinance, but I think we've got us moving in the right direction, which has put a lot of smiles on people's faces that want to see this happen and want to be able to have a healthier lifestyle, and provide, eggs and so forth to their family, and have, just a healthier living altogether, especially under the current health atmosphere that we have going on, the health environment crisis that we have going on today. So many thanks to Councilman Ockenden for his leadership and reaching out to the community, his transparency in this issue, and I certainly feel he deserves a lot of credit. And many thanks to the town staff for their effort in getting us to where we are today and moving forward. And many thanks to you too, Mr. Supervisor, because ultimately, you're the one that is the manager of the town and manager of the town staff, and appreciate your support with this initiative moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Any additional comments, board?
I echo what Andy said. He spoke so well. This is the time to be doing this. People are looking for environmental sustainability, and part of that is allowing for, we see raised gardens all over, and now people want to have chickens so they can have the eggs. And I think we owe it to the citizens, and I think we've well vetted this issue, and I do thank Bob Ockenden for bringing it forward. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Councilwoman Cole. Additional comments?
I would echo just the same, the comments. I thank Bob for bringing it forward as well to us. And I think it will only the residents that I know that have spoken to me about it will be extremely pleased about, and I hope to see that there'll be other towns looking to us and seeing what we're doing, and that we're upfront and out there with being progressive, especially during this time. So I thank you again, Bob, and staff, everything, Mr. Supervisor, for all you've done to put this forward. So thank you.
Okay, so next steps would be then to have a vote tonight to advance it to the next stage. The next stage would be to have a resolution that we'd ask staff to draft. This would be a resolution that the board would then look to approve next Wednesday, September 2nd. And the way that local laws typically are structured is that it takes effect immediately upon approval by the town. And at this point, to take that next step, I would recognize Councilman Bob Ockenden to lead us in a motion to take us to that next step for a vote on Wednesday the 2nd.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I'll make a formal motion that we take this proposal to the September 2nd legislative session of the town board for approval.
Great, thank you. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
There's a second by Councilwoman Cole. Seeing no further discussion, I'll ask for a roll call vote of approval to advance this to the September 2nd legislative session for a formal vote of approval for this local law. Roll call, please.
Draw.
Aye.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes.
All right, thank you. And again, thank you, Mr. Costello, Mr. Ockenden, for all of your hard work. We'll move on to action item number 2. This is the Small Wireless Communications Facilities Ordinance, known as Local Law Number 2 of 2020, and ask Mr. Costello, again, who has spent a tremendous amount of time with a number of other staff members and Town Attorney Dick Horowitz, as well as our counsel to our Town Attorney, Cohen Law Group, that have a specialty in this particular area, that have been working very closely with the town as well. Mr. Costello.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. As you know, we had our public hearing on July 15th. We did receive some input. We had some people interested at the meeting regarding the document. The document really, a lot of the document really is a reiteration of our existing telecommunications ordinance as it relates to the large cell towers, the satellite dishes, the home dishes that you might see, the 1.5 centimeter dishes. Those are pretty much the same as they've been in the past. What really is being addressed in this document now, as Tony mentioned, is the small wireless communications facilities that are about to occur as they relate to the 5G technology that's upon us. We did receive some valuable input from some people within the industry that helped to kind of craft this. We had those comments reviewed by our attorneys, Cohen, who gave us valuable input. We believe that at this point in time now that we're at a point where we are comfortable offering this to you for adoption. And it really does address the new 5G technology. As the public may or may not know, the technology is such that you may need numerous poles. And when I say poles, you don't need the telephone. They're much like the telephone poles with mechanics on them. They're not like the tall towers that we're all used to seeing historically in town, but they are going to be within the right-of-way. And it does give the ability for the town to charge per pole and per co-location on those poles over a period of time for use of our right-of-way. So we had to build that into the process. In addition to this document, we would also request that you approve a design manual that we created that gives the carriers, that gives the boards, that gives the staff down the line direction as to how to handle and where they should be placing these things and how they should look so they blend in with the character of the neighborhoods around the town. The final thing is that because we are entitled to charge a fee for these poles to be installed within our right-of-ways, We are going to be also offering you a resolution for a fee schedule to address what we should be charging under the federal guidelines per pole and per co-location as we move forward on these particular installations within our right-of-way. So it does provide for an all-around comprehensive review of these poles coming into the town as needed. So our recommendation is if you could move forward, we would appreciate it because we're going to see some pressure soon from these carriers to start installing poles within the community.
Thank you, Mr. Costello. So by way of a little bit of history, we did have a public hearing on this because of certainly the interest in this area. We held that public hearing open. That allowed for additional input comments to come in. That provided then staff the opportunity, working with town attorney and counsel to the town attorney Cohen, in putting together not only the local law and refining that, but also putting together a fee schedule, and then for the design features so that we have provided some guidance to staff as we move forward. And again, I think, Mr. Costello, I just want to underscore the fact that this is something that is coming. I don't think all communities are as far ahead with where we are, and the thing we don't want to be caught off guard is to have these things being plunked everywhere and of a design that may not be aesthetically pleasing to a particular neighborhood in a particular area. And this work that was done by staff and the attorneys provides a lot of guidance that I think is going to be very important as we move forward. So at this point, I would just ask, board, is there any additional comments by any of the board members or questions for Mr. Costello? Okay. Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to next advance this to the September 2nd legislative session of the town board, then to take further action to adopt local law number 2 of 2020. Actually,
I move that we move forward to put it on the agenda for September 2nd.
it's been moved by Councilwoman Cole. Is there a second?
I'll second it, Mr. Supervisor.
Seconded by Councilwoman Draw. And for the record, and keeping the record straight, I will just, I was mistaken. This is local law number 3 of 2020, not 2. So local law number 3 of 2020. Okay, we have a motion and a second on the table. Seeing no further discussions, I'd ask for a roll call vote to move this forward to resolution at the legislative session on September 2nd.
Draw.
Aye.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes.
Thank you. This takes us to action item C, and it's Glenbrook Pond Subdivision Stormwater Facility Outlet Pipe Replacement. And I will next recognize our Director of Public Works, Eric Tate, who has worked very closely with this and our engineering department to put together a plan, specifications for this. We did have, as the board recalls, we did go out for bid. We did receive a number of bids, and Mr. Tate will just give us kind of a highlight. I believe the board has a summary copy of the data. And with that, Mr. Tate, if you would like to take us through why are we doing this and what the next steps are based on the quotes that we received.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. As you indicated earlier this month, we put forth a resolution with this board to authorize or to advertise for public bids for the replacement of a section of the storm sewer system. It's the outlet control structure, kind of downstream piping that comes out of these ponds. They are the largest ponds within the town of Penfield that we actually own and maintain. With that said, we did put we set a bid opening for last Friday, August 21st, and did receive 5 bids from various contractors, prices ranging from $78,000 up to $113,000. So everyone was fairly competitive. Got kind of a good number, when everyone's pretty close to one another. With that said, the reason behind the project and what we're looking to do, the old pipe that kind of goes between the pond and the manhole on the south side of Woodfield Drive before it turns and kind of goes in between yards and then daylights in and turns to an open stream and kind of creek that flows further to the south. We have noticed kind of some settlement in the road along the kind of, and even in the grass area along the edge of the road. We've cambered the pipe and inspected that and actually found that there's some rot holes developing. So with the kind of structural integrity at stake, as well as kind of the safety of any vehicles driving over that, and the concern that if left as is, over time it will continue to deteriorate and a car or vehicle may end up falling through the road if that were to collapse. Felt that there was a kind of a safety issue and really needed to be addressed prior to getting a phone call that something horrible went wrong. So with that said, myself and the engineering department have kind of put together some ideas and plans. We took the original design plan from when the kind of pond was put in and the this pipe was constructed and installed. Took that, made some slight modifications and tweaks, just as we've kind of seen what's worked well over the since it's been put in and what things could be done, and put together a bid package that contractors picked up and put some numbers against for us. With that said, the low bid was $78,661. That was by Ironwood Heavy Highway LLC. Given that the bid opening was this past Friday, I would like to, if the board's in agreement, I would like to, take a little time just to contact them, make sure that what their, all of their numbers, that there was no typos, nothing wrong. That they can hold their price. They did turn in everything that they were required to, and they appear to be the lowest responsible bidder. But we just want to verify and make sure of that. As long as that's what they come back and agree to, and say that that price is correct and that there were no errors. I would like to kind of move that forward and put that forth with a resolution next Wednesday to approve and award the bid, and contract to them. Just given that we're kind of getting, toward the end of the construction season, we really want to have this in as quick as possible, given that they're going to have some pavement restoration as well as concrete work within the gutters and construction seasons, coming to an end.
If I do recall, Mr. Tate, as part of the bid specifications that you and the engineering department put together, one of the items that they had to guarantee and ensure is that all the work would be completed on or before the end of October.
Correct.
And so certainly that's one other aspect that we want to make sure, as you said, we've got road, so we're talking about. So just to give our viewing audience just a little bit more information, a lot of times when we think about storm sewer pipes, we think about things that connect our catch basins, or maybe something that comes out between homes where you see maybe a 12-inch, a 15-inch, or an 18-inch. This particular pipe is 64 inches by 43 inches. It's an arch pipe, and it carries a significant amount of water from one area to another area, and certainly having that collapse and injuring someone, doing property damage, that definitely is of concern. But also making sure the integrity of the pipe carrying the appropriate flows so that we don't have backups, floods, and things like that. And so as we embark on this, we want to make sure that, again, everybody's on the same page, same understanding. Not that we believe that anything was missed, but again, with a project this size, we always also like to verify the numbers and verify everything so that there's nothing that's missed. And then from there, as Mr. Tate has articulated, if everything holds up to the scrutiny of the numbers and everything is committed to be able to be completed by the end of October, then we'd look to put a resolution in for next Wednesday, the 2nd of September. So with that, I might ask board questions, and I see Councilwoman Draw with her very important question of the night.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Eric, how many, and maybe I missed it, did you say how many bids we had submitted for this project?
Yes, there were 5 separate contractors submitted bids for this.
And the difference between that and variation of high to low to this one was?
The low bid came in at $78,661, and the high bid was $113,284.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
And I think another point of data for you, Deb, is that the second lowest bid was $83,020. So round numbers, about less than $4,000 higher than the lowest bid.
Thank you.
Okay. Further questions that more for Eric to address on this particular matter? And this would be part of, as we would advance this would be part of our drainage fund. This fits, within that. That's part of the fund that we charge all of our residents across the town. And as projects come up, whether it's a ditching, pipe replacement, or other major drainage work comes out of that fund, and this project would therefore come out of this fund. Okay, I would entertain a motion to direct our Public Works Director to verify all of the numbers received and that the completion date can be attained. And if all of those are satisfied, he would look to put a resolution in for Wednesday. And if for some reason there is any questions or what have you, he would look to hold off for an additional 2 weeks and bring any of that information back to the town board. So I would entertain a motion to direct Eric to move forward with vetting out and establishing a resolution if appropriate for next week.
I'll move that, Mr. Supervisor.
Second.
Been moved by Councilwoman Draw, second by Councilwoman Cole. Seeing no further discussion, I'd ask for a roll call vote to move this forward.
Draw.
Aye.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes.
Okay, seeing no further business to come before the board this evening, the August 26, 2020 work session of the town board will stand adjourned at 8:06 p.m. I want to thank everyone that participated this evening. Also, thanks to our team downstairs. I know we have Ryan, I think we have Dave and/or Brian. And thank you for making sure that we continue to be able to broadcast and get this information about our boards and our activity out to all of our residents for their information. Thank you very much, and as always, be well and be safe.